Last week, I was able to snap a few shots of the moon with a new camera. The moon is intriguing. Welcome to Presentation Ponder Practice. The moon was created by God on the fourth day of creation. Genesis chapter 1 verses 14 through 19. Genesis chapter 1 verse 14 informs readers that there were more than one light to separate the day from the night. The lights, plural, were to be for signs, points of reference, and for seasons, a natural period into which the year is divided, and for days from sunset until the next sunset, and years, periods of 12 lunar months. The created lights were placed as lights in the firmament of the heavens to give light on the earth. Verse 15. Then God made two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light, we know as the moon, to rule the night. Verse 16. So we see that the moon was appointed to divide day from night, to light the earth at night, be for signs and seasons, dwell in the firmament, and rule the night. The moon has its own glory. 1 Corinthians chapter 15 verse 41 says, "There is one glory of the sun, and another glory of the moon, and another glory of the stars. For stars differ from star in glory." Deuteronomy 4 verse 19 instructs, "Beware not to lift up your eyes to heaven and see the sun and the moon and the stars, all the host of heaven, and be drawn away to worship them and serve them, those which the Lord your God has allotted to all the peoples under the whole heaven." The sun, moon, and stars are for everyone's benefit. Worshipping the moon was forbidden, as we just witnessed in Deuteronomy chapter 4 and verse 19. Worshipping the moon was condemned as being godless in Job 31. In verse 26 of Job 31, "If I have looked at the sun when it shone, or the moon going in splendor," then verse 28, "that too would have been an iniquity calling for judgment. For I would have denied God above." Even though worshiping the moon was to be punished with death, Deuteronomy 17 verses 2 through 6, Jews were often guilty of doing such, as 2 Kings 23 verse 5 points out. Josiah, therefore, worked to reform their wickedness in this area. Jeremiah chapter 8 verse 2 speaks of the sun, the moon, and the host of heaven being what the Jews loved and served, went after and sought and worshipped instead of God, the Creator. So God punished them. Jeremiah 8 verses 1 through 3. There are a few interesting notes we find in Scripture concerning the moon. It is connected to days of feasting, 1 Samuel chapter 20, verses 5 and 6. Also Psalm 81, verse 3. The moon stopped while the sun stood still during Joshua's encounter with the Amorites, Joshua chapter 10, verses 12 and 13. The moon, represented by the term the months, meaning the period between successive new moons, influences vegetation. The moon was used in illustration of the glory of Christ in the church, Isaiah chapter 60 and verse 20. The moon withdrawing her light symbolizes deep calamities, Isaiah 13 verse 10, and twice in Joel, the first time in chapter 2 verse 10 and the second time in chapter 3 verse 15. The moon is part of God's handiwork. In Psalm 8 verses 3 and 4, the psalmist ponders, "When I consider your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and the stars which you have ordained, what is man that you take thought of him, and the Son of Man that you care for him?" Though good for measuring time, having light at night, and considering God's amazing power, the moon is not to be worshipped. As Solomon wrote in Psalm 72, verse 5, let them, the people, fear you, God, while the sun endures, and as long as the moon throughout all generations. Appreciate the moon, be drawn by it to seek out its creator. May God bless you.